type of scenario, if we were to just have, let's say, because some of these items work simultaneously versus what's going to be built on the business credit side while the personal credit side is being built. So wouldn't that just potentially be pushed later into the process where both could be on there, her with her income and him with his higher score, or perhaps both of them make that profile better by making that pay down happen from 43% to 10%? And,
So,
since we'll be months in the process anyways, probably, 3 months later, all of that could be corrected. And then now they could move forward the way they wanted to, right?
well, let me comment on that to try to answer your question. First of all, the husband can go right to find funding right away. So there's, in terms of, things take time and down the road, the husband can go to funding right away. Our BFS team will primarily try to speak with Dane's, the husband here first. And if we move him right to funding, which we normally would for a goal like that, they will normally try to have the client, because it's in the client's best interest, at least go through the compliance checks for building business credit prior to going into funding. And so let's clarify what we mean by that. I know Josh, because you understand that side, but when you're building business credit, you're adding trade lines and, going through tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, all those kinds of things. And after you get your first 3 trade lines reporting, then you have a paydex score, but you still don't have a real robust business credit profile, and so on and so forth. And so part of what I heard in Josh's comments was that as they build their business credit, they'll be better qualified for the financing in the future. So while that's going on, and they're also fixing the 43% utilization, isn't everything going to be fine after a few months when the utilization is lower and the business credit has been built? And that's true, but I also want you to remember, this guy can go right to funding. And when we mean go right to funding, he's a gold 1.0, and he's going to have a quick conversation with the BFS, and the BFS is basically going to say, the business finance strategist is basically going to say, Mr. Prospect, we can get you into funding probably, right away, 24, 48 hours, depending on your availability and blah, blah, blah. But just remember, I'm looking at your application here and I see boom, 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 and they can list 2, 3, 4 things that, probably don't help you with, some of that 0%, business credit money that we're going after. So for example, I just looked and saw that you're using a free email service. You're using your Gmail account, and your company is ABC Enterprises. For about $5 or $6 a month, you can set up a G Suite, and you can now be Jim at abcenterprises.com rather than Jimbo735427@gmail.com, right? And, at the end of the day, these are algorithmic decisions. We've talked about here, quite a few times how, domained emails are better and get you more positive points in the algorithms for your business credit request versus free email services. There are lenders that have found that default rates are higher with business owners who use free email services. So, they're going to talk that through, and they're going to say, do you want to take an hour or two or a day or two to check a few of the compliance boxes, Mr. Jones, before we put you into funding, or do you want me to send you there right away? Because most of the time, people are going to go, gosh, what are they? What do I have to do? Well, it'll take you an hour or two, sometimes a day or two, and I can send you that list, and all you got to do is blah, 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 right? And so they're doing things like, making sure they can be found on Yellow Pages and 411 and checking email addresses, little things like that, right, that either allow you to increase your chances of getting an automated approval, certainly increase your chances of being approved versus denied, but also minimize, when you do those things, when you check all of the compliance boxes for your business and your business credit, you also minimize the documentation requests. All right. So remember that. For those of you that think, oh, that's no big deal, well, think again. Think about the documentation you need for an SBA loan. It's pretty extensive, right? And think, but business credit, no big deal for just some credit cards. Well, maybe not, but I can tell you that as of last week, we had over 40 people we're going to fix it, we're going to minimize it, right? But we had over 40 people who we were simply asking for a driver's license and a utility bill for identity and address verification in the event that the lenders needed it, and they aren't getting it to us, or they're taking a delayed amount of time to get it to us, right? And so minimizing documentation requests helps all of us if we can do that, because when you say it's no big deal, they just want a driver's license, they just want an SS4 letter, well, that's fine. It's probably maybe no big deal to you, but I can tell you that you do that 100 times for 100 entrepreneurs, and it is going to be a big deal for more than a few of them just getting it. You know, I got a job, I got a life, I got a family, I got this, I don't know where it is. What's an SS4 letter? How's that work? I can't find it. If any of you know, you can't go get another one if you lost the one you got. I mean, so all those things. So back to your question, Josh, and then we'll get to the hands that are raised. Back to your question is, that person can go immediately to funding the husband, and yes, they will be in a better position, 3-4 months down the road, but we also don't want to delay them and tell them to wait. So therefore, spend an hour to check a few of the compliance boxes. Let's get you into funding, and now let's increase your chances of getting approved and of minimizing your documentation requests along the way. Does that help a little bit, Josh?
Yes, it does. And then just to add on that last piece, because wouldn't the approval amounts also be somewhat dependent on the income level? And if there's less documentation requests, perhaps the household income could be used. Is that a scenario where that would be applicable, or how would that part work?
We'll use the household income anyways, because even if the spouse isn't on the application, they live together, they're husband and wife. So we don't sacrifice the income by her not being on it anyways. So we don't lose anything there.
That answers the question right there.